Liliana Vess. Probably one of the most iconic planeswalkers in all Magic the Gathering, and certainly one of the oldest around, being among the so-called Lowryn's 5, or the first 5 ever printed planeswalkers alongside Jace Beleren, Chandra Nalaar, Ajani Goldmane, and Garroqual Speaker. The year was 2007. I was only 11 at the time, and I remember in the endless hour that I spent at the local store playing Magic how badly I wanted to know so much more about the inner stories of the game, the word concealed behind it, and the meaning of those few flavor lines on my new favorite cards. 15 years have passed now, and today I'm so proud to present you with my Liliana Vess Complete History video, the first of a new series in which I will explore every planeswalker, one for each video, trying to find all the answers to the questions I had 15 years ago, but also many more. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. The Caligomor Simbonalia is famous in the surrounding regions for being a dark, twisted and corrupted marshy delta and not much more. Fed by the Teal River, Caligo is located on the narrow coastal plain between the Red Iron Mountains on one side and the Sea of Avenant on the other. Who hates this place claim it's nothing more than a mixture of revolting insect-like creatures, thick fog and putrid stench. Travelers are very careful not to pass through because an old curse is said to be lingering on these lands. A curse so old that no one truly remembers. A curse so lost in time that has turned into legend. Of the magnificent and flourishing estates that once rose above the city, only decaying and time-worn ruins now remain. This is a story of life and a story of death. It is the story of dark mages and elder demons, of desperate and foolish attempts to escape human weakness. It is a story of deceit, fall, and redemption. But most importantly, this is the story of a little naive girl named Liliana Vess, and of her family, landlords of the once solemn manor towering over Vess town. Liliana Vess is born in Dominaria around the year 4300 AR to a wealthy family in the little town of Vess in the Caligo forest. She initially lives a very happy and well-off youth in the family estate, training to become a proper maiden in the arts of housekeeping. Only one day in her youth, she discovers she's able to channel black mana, and to hone this magical gift, she drops her former studies and becomes a member of the local holy order of clerics and healers known as the Forward Order. As she studies under the tutelage of her mentor, Lady Anna, she decides to secretly tap into the forbidden study of death magic, convinced that being able to manipulate this art would greatly enhance her healing skills too. However, this calm was not to last, and soon all will change. One day, Liliana's brother Josu becomes the victim of a terrible spell hatched by the enemies of the father. As Liliana is looking for the Essus root required to concoct a potion for her brother, she is suddenly approached by an unsettling and unknown man, who claims to be a friend of her father's. The weird character assists Liliana in gathering all the necessary ingredients for the potion, but then, when the two find the Essus tree, the roots of which are essential to concoct the potion, the tree is unexpectedly dead. The man then instructs Liliana on how to revive the tree using necromancy, and given that time was not on their side, he also instructs her on how to quickly brew a potion using all the gathered ingredients before returning to the manor. Holding firmly to the glittering light purple potion on one hand, Liliana then rushes to the castle and, despite her mentor's advice, she administers the sparkling potion to her brother. The remedy seems to work at first, and Josu's health rapidly improves, but again, this was not to last. A few hours after the treatment, the poor Josu starts to slide into madness, and he begins to violently attack other people. Realizing that she had been tricked by the mysterious man in the forest, although not knowing who he is, Liliana understands that she needs to put an end to her brother's misery and uses necromancy to revive Josu's own victims as zombies to fight him. The corpses are not too fast, but their strength lies in their number, and within minutes they overrun Josu's body and kill him. In that very moment, that distress caused by the sense of guilt and desperation that Liliana feels is so strong that her spark ignites and she ascends, planeswalking away to the plane of Innistrad. Now, if you're not aware of it, Innistrad is a gothic-themed plane inhabited by humans, but also zombies, werewolves, vampires, ghosts, and demons. Humans on this plane are devotees of the Church of Avacyn, a religious order promising protection from the evils lurking in the night. The church is named after Avacyn, an archangel whose help was crucial in driving back the monsters that preyed on humans. Innistrad is also the birthplane of famously known planeswalkers such as the vampire storer Markov, the half-devil Tybalt the Trickster, the deceased Ronas, and the werewolf Arling Court. In this place, Liliana will perfect her necromantic skills, developing a preference for the black art of ghoul calling over the tedious and precise blue practice of Stitchers, for which she has no patience. During her stay, she also meets storer Markov, Lord of Innistrad at the time, who easily defeats her in a single combat and makes it very clear that outsiders are not welcomed in his lands. Liliana isn't that interesting in his warnings though, as her only objective now is to find the mysterious man who had tricked her into cursing her own brother and take her revenge. To do so, after having thoroughly trained and honed her magical skills, she returns to the ruins of the Vess estate on Dominaria and starts looking for the man. She manages to find him pretty easily, and when she does, he refuses to fight her, claiming that all he's ever wanted is to guide the young woman towards the best, truest, and most powerful version of herself. After that, he vanishes into thin air, leaving Liliana puzzled and pretty upset. Also, here is where we lose track of Liliana's movements for quite a while. We know that somewhere during these years, she attends the Strixhaven University of Magic on the plane of Arcavios as a student of the Witherbloom College. Then, sometime after the Great Mending, Liliana meets with a severely weakened Nicol Bolas. If you're not aware of it, the Great Mending had been a cosmological event initiated by the Planeswalker Jeska that healed the multiverse and reshaped the nature of interplanar travels, but it also rebalanced the power of the spark, permanently diminishing the power of every living and yet-to-be Planeswalker. With Bolas, Liliana expresses precisely her disappointment towards this last point, claiming that the effects the Mending had on her kind were way too harsh. Just a few years prior to that moment, planeswalkers were akin to living gods, but that had completely changed now. Intrigued by her words, and especially by her thirst for power, Bolas makes an offer to the woman. Essentially, in exchange for full loyalty and servitude to the Elder Dragon, 4 powerful Elder Demons would have given Liliana her youth and a fraction of her old power back. Blinded by ambition and by her lust for power, the Black Planeswalker accepts the deal without thinking about it twice. Eventually, Liliana finds her way to Ravnica, a worldwide cityscape plane governed by the Guild Pact and the 10 Guilds of Ravnica. There, she becomes a stable resident, and she also seduces and has an affair with the most iconic mind mage, Jace Beleren. As the relationship between the two grows in affection though, Liliana maneuvers Jace into fighting Tezzeret of the Infinite Consortium, a mercantile organization that the human planeswalker had stolen from Bolas. But why would she do such a thing? Well, Bolas had promised her freedom from the demonic pact that she had made if she had returned the consortium to him. Predictably, however, this was revealed to be just another one of Bolas's endless lies. To be fair, several times she thinks of betraying the Elder Dragon and run away with her lover, but in the end, the fear of the demons gets always the better of her. One day, the demon Kothopet, who had bestowed eternal youth upon Liliana by carving on her skin intricate tattoos, sends the woman on an errand to recover the Chain Veil, a powerful relic located within the intricate maze below the Onaka catacombs on Shandalar, which was a rogue plane that Liliana had already visited before. From this moment, everything would change for Liliana. The artifact had originally been created to turn its bearer into a vessel for the resurrection of the long-dead Onaka on Shandalar, and it also had the power to conceal its bearer's soul from their enemies. Its power was so high that it would kill any user if they weren't strong enough. Liliana easily retrieves the ancient artifact and wears it on her head. By doing so, she's able to greatly enhance her powers and obliterate Garruk the Wild Speaker, who in the meantime had attacked her in the Veil's room to avenge his companion beast that Liliana had slain just outside the catacombs. Now, although the Veil grants its bearer to unleash great powers, it also requires a price. So, after having used it against Garruk, intoxicated by this power, Liliana planeswalks right away to Kothopet's sanctuary and confronts him about the veil. A fight between the two ensues, but soon enough it's clear that the demon is no match for the empowered planeswalker who, without hesitation, blows him apart. After that, Liliana collapses on her knees in pain as the tattoos that Kothopet had given her begin to bleed as a result of her tapping into this ancient relic's power. To put an end to the unsustainable pain and constant bleeding, Liliana travels back to the Onaka catacombs and resurrects the body of the wisest man who knew of the Onaka civilization to ask him what the artifact was actually doing to her body. To Liliana's disappointment though, the corpse is not of much use and it actually also acts in a weird way, even for a zombie. Only when Liliana is about to give up and succumb to her pain will the corpse tilt his hand and reveal to be that of the Raven Man himself, the mysterious individual that had originally tricked Liliana into poisoning Josu, her own brother. He then administers the same potion that Liliana had given to Josu, but against all odds, a golden glow spreads across her body, actually healing her wounds. Liliana, feeling strong again, is blinded by rage at this moment and stabs the man right before planeswalking back to the plane of Innistrad. The choice of the plane here is not coincidental, because in Innistrad dwells another one of her demons, the Elder Griselbrand, who however had just gone missing after his fight against the Archangel Avacyn. Also, unfortunately for the woman, she's not the only one on the hunt. Garruk, who had somehow survived their attacks in the tomb, tracks her down but cannot quite reach her thanks to the undead minions that Liliana throws at him before planeswalking away again. The woman then follows the trail of Avacyn to the High Angelic Cathedral of Thraben, at a time besieged by the necromancers Giza and Geralf and their undead armies. In the heat of the battle, Geralt fights and kills Mikos the Lunarch, the highest official of the church and probably also one of the last persons to know where Griselbrand could be found. However, determined to find her master more than anything, Liliana retrieves and revives the corpse of the Lunarch and lures about the resting place of her prey. On her path towards Griselbrand's sanctuary, Liliana ruthlessly slaughters both angels and demons alike, finally managing to corner the Elder Demon. With his back against the wall, the demonic fiend tries one last time to corrupt Liliana with promises of power, but this time, she knows better. Again, she draws on the power of the veil and mercilessly butchers her opponent. She will planeswalk back to Shandalar, again headed to the Onaka temple to seek answers on unsettling otherworldly whispers that she'd started to hear after Griselbrand's killing. Once she gets to the altar room, she desperately tries to return the veil to its original position, but to no avail. She tries everything to get rid of the artifact, including summoning a skeleton to return it for her, but not even her summon would do so. Finally, the spirit of an ancient Onaka appears before her and explains to Liliana how the veil was known to their civilization as the Veil of Deceit, adding that she would soon learn her truths for herself. Infuriated by this stance, Liliana taps once again into the power of the veil and makes the ghost disappear. Then, left alone in the empty tomb, she starts to realize how the side effects of using the veil are becoming more serious with each use. Exhausted, sore, and utterly defeated, Liliana Vess leaves Shandalar, disappearing through an interplanar black cloud. She will then arrive on the plane of Ravnica and reunite with her lover, Jace Beleren. To him, she will ask for help to track down and slay the remaining two demons. As Liliana is finally opening up with someone else about the deal she has signed with Bolas, the couple is interrupted by Gideon Jura, a human white planeswalker from Terras who had come begging for Jace's help to repel the Eldrazi advance on his native plane. Without thinking twice, Jace accepts to help his friend and leaves Ravnica with Gideon, joining the Gatewatch forces. Liliana is furious about this, but she has barely the time to process what had just happened because she is again approached by the mysterious Raven Man who seems to be haunting her mercilessly. The woman ferociously attacks him, but once more he vanishes into thin air, leaving only behind his mocking laughter echoing inside Liliana's head. While Jace and the other Planeswalkers head towards Zendikar to fight off the Eldrazi threat, Liliana returns to her estate on Innistrad to recover her strengths after her last encounter with the Ravenman. Meanwhile, the situation on Zendikar soon gets out of hand, and the Eldrazi, led by their titan Emrakul the Iron Storm, arrive on Innistrad in what seems like an unstoppable advance. Liliana is ready to abandon the plane to save herself without looking back when she remembers the feeling she owes for Clockboy, as she calls him, and resolves to stay and fight for the plane.
Victory is for the strong. And the strong are willing to embrace the darkness. This is my domain. So fall in, soldier. As the true enemy rises. Darkness is your only hope.
Confronted directly by Emrakul, Liliana begins to lose control over her own army, and both the Chain Veil and the voice of the Ravenman in her head urge to flee. Liliana Vess, however, unaccustomed to defeat, draws fully on the Veil's power like never before, and feels extraordinarily close to the power that she had wielded before the Mending. Then, as this immense energy shields her from the Titan's influence, she manages to attack him directly. The battle nearly kills her, leaving her unconscious on the ground as the fight ends. When she wakes up, she discovers that Emrakul has been sealed off on Innistrad's moon by the Gatewatch and Tamiyo, while her wounds have been healed by other Planeswalkers. So, seeing in them potentially useful allies for her future plans, Liliana decides to join the Gatewatch herself and departs with them from Innistrad, leaving her army of zombies wandering in the ruins of Thraben without a master. After the Eldrazi's defeat, the Gatewatch established their headquarters in Jace's apartments on Ravnica. One day, Dovin Baan, a Vedalken blue-white planeswalker, shows up to hire them, but he is reminded that the organization only fights against greater interplanar threats and is not a club of mercenaries for hire. Chandra Nalaar, among the others, is particularly upset by Dovin's request, so Liliana brings her to Kaladesh, the Red Mage's home plane, to cool down. Okay, so let's pause for a second here, because before we continue, I need to tell you some things about this plane that are important to our story. Kaladesh is a plane ruled by an omnipresent organization known as the Consulate. Giripur, known as the City of Wonders within the plane, was the hometown of Chandra and also of her parents, Pia and Kiran Nalaar. The same Pia was also the leader of the Renegade's forces, based in the same city. Once Liliana and Chandra arrive in the city, and Liliana learns from Chandra the story of her family and how her spark had ignited, she deliberately pushes Chandra to move against the Consulate, who has supposedly murdered her parents, and also against Baral, a high Consulate officer who had almost killed Chandra before her spark had ignited. As the two planeswalkers are wandering through the streets of Giripur, they come across some unrest and learn that a hooded man referred to as the Head Judge is about to confront an inventor referred to as Renegade Prime. Liliana recognized the Head Judge to be no less than Tezzeret himself, the human planeswalker against whom Jace had fought on Ravnica, while Renegade Prime reveals to be Pia Nalaar, Chandra's mother, whom the girl had thought to be dead for years. In the meantime, Nissa Ravane, also a member of the Gatewatch, arrives on the plane and reprimands Liliana for having pushed Chandra to act against the Consulate without consulting with the others first. Instead of explaining her reasons though, Liliana walks back to Ravnica to inform Jace and Gideon of the situation, asking them to join her on Kaladesh as soon as possible. There, the group will meet with the Leonin Ajani Goldmane, and they all join forces with the Renegades against Tezzeret and the Consulate. While on Kaladesh, Liliana and Gideon also have a falling out, as the latter reproaches Liliana for their use of lethal force against enemy troops. Liliana doesn't care too much though. She thinks that working with the Renegades against the Consulate is only a waste of time, and she's obsessed with striking Tezzeret directly. At one point, the planeswalker Saheli Rai reveals to know where Tezzeret is hiding, and Liliana volunteers to accompany her. The two arrive at the designated place, but they're too late. Tezzeret had already been notified and had managed to escape. On their path back to the Gatewatch, however, Vess and Rai find a wounded Rashmi who has managed to escape Tezzeret's abduction. The elf warns the planeswalkers that her inventions had been rebuilt and expanded by the Metal Mage to allow contact to other planes. Then, reunited with the Gatewatch, Liliana asks once again for the permission to confront Tezzeret directly to kill him. To push for a yes, she also presents the fight as a good distraction for the rest of the Gatewatch to destroy the planar bridge that Tezzeret had created in the meantime. Aided by her zombies, Liliana reaches the Ether Spire, the building where Tezzeret is hiding, and ascends to the top. There, she finds him standing right above the planar bridge, ready to fight. The two confronts vehemently, one wielding metal magic and the other her command over death. In the end, Liliana manages to overcome Tezzeret and asks him where Bolas is hidden. The man reveals the place to be Amonkhet, the very same place where Razaketh, the third of the 4 demons that held a piece of Liliana's soul, dwelled. Liliana is about to finish off her opponent when Gideon and Chandra crash directly into the Prana Bridge, destroying it but also unintentionally giving Tezzeret the perfect chance to escape. In the aftermath of the victory, Liliana urges the Gatewatch to strike Bolas directly and immediately, seeing that, with Tezzeret still on the loose, any cover they could have was now compromised. Luckily, the group agrees and they all head to Amonkhet. When the Gatewatch arrive in Amonkhet, they're immediately attacked by a group of zombies. Liliana managed to take control over several of them, but in the heat of the battle, she is also swallowed by a worm. Initially thought dead by both herself and her friends, she later manages to decompose the worm from the inside by using the Chainveil's power and successfully gets out of it alive. The party of walkers then arrive to the city of Naktamun, where Liliana is delighted to see mummified servants as she derides the idea of gods as pretenders, since the only gods she has ever known were nothing more than hubristic planeswalkers. I mean, she is something, isn't she? Anyway, while the rest of the Gatewatch is Naktamun as headquarters to conduct her research on the plane and learn about Bolas' presence there, Liliana leads her own private investigations. Once again, the Raven appears to her and warns her not to become too entangled with her new friends, goading her of basically having gotten too soft. As Jace approaches though, the Ravenman vanishes into a black flock and Liliana is not even able to reply anything to him. This is very interesting, by the way, because no one seemed to be able to see the Raven Man except Liliana, which might lead to some speculation about him not being actually real, but rather just an hallucination that the Planeswalker has, representing her most inner drives and self-interests. Anyway, let's go back to our story. Liliana and Jace follow one of her living shades to a place inscribed with Razenket's symbols. Inside, they witness the creation of the Anointed, the mummy servants of before, through corpses of those who had died in battle. Oh, and they also see a carving on a wall alluding to Razaket's involvement in the afterlife. Not really good. Learning of her history with the demon, Jace gets mad at Liliana, accusing her of having taken advantage of the Gatewatch for her own purposes and of having betrayed their trust, basically. And he's not wrong, to be honest, but anyway. A few calm days pass, and then it happens. After the second son of Amonkhet comes to rest between Bolas' horn monument, the gate to the afterlife opens. On the other side, Razaket himself stands revealed before the population of Naktamun, much to their horror and dismay. At his command, the river Luxa turns to blood and he utters a direct challenge to Liliana. The demons doesn't play it fair though, and by using an hidden clause of their contract, he easily takes control over Liliana's body, calling her towards him. As he is about to crush and devour her, however, the Gatewatch attack him by surprise, and he gets distracted enough for Liliana to free herself from his grasp. Enraged and bloodthirsty like never before, Liliana uses her necromantic magic to take control over the dead beasts in the Luxa and command them to tear the demon apart. Then she relishes watching her undead feast on his remains. When the show is over, the Gatewatch find out where Bolas is hiding, and they also discover that he had been creating his private army of Eternals, or highly trained fighting specialists who had been zombified while keeping their skill set intact. Confident that they would stand a chance against the Elder Dragon, the group of Planeswalkers attack him, but they're utterly defeated. While the battle is raging and things are looking really bad for the Gatewatch, Bolas offers Liliana his mercy, and she immediately takes it, betraying all of her friends and fleeing to another plane to avoid death. Of course, she is well aware that Bolas has not spared her out of goodness, and that she will have to repay the Elder Dragon somehow. Liliana then planeswalks to Dominaria, unsure of the fate of her friends, but much to her astonishment, she is soon reunited with them. Confronted by an angry Nissa and a severely wounded Chandra, Liliana attempts at defending her position, arguing that she would have been of no use against Bolas while still indebted to the four demons. Furthermore, she reveals to have discovered by some of her sources that Belzenlok, the last of the four demons, has been hiding on Dominaria, and she tries to convince the rest of the Gatewatch to actually help her flush him out and kill him. The group is not really happy though. Nissa lives in disgust. Chandra tells that she needs to recover from her wounds and then she will just train to become stronger. Jace had tried to penetrate Bolas's mind on Amonkhet during the battle and had been forced to planeswalk away mid-fight to avoid mental death, so is not here with them at the moment. Only a wounded Gideon, unexpectedly, decides to remain with Liliana. Looking for a place to heal the man, Gideon and Liliana head towards the ruined settlement of the Vess family. There, they discovered that the Cabal had actually taken control over Liliana's homeland and turned the forest into a marshland. Liliana also learned that the story of her family had become legend and none of her relatives had survived, although their manor still technically stood somewhere in the heart of the marshland. As Liliana is healing Gideon, the two are attacked by the Cabal, and by penetrating one of the zombies' mind, Liliana learns that, wait for it, their master is no less than the brother Josu, who had been turned into a lich by Belzenlok's cultists. The demon's idea behind this was to have Liliana waste the Veil's power on her brother so that she wouldn't have enough to then confront him. Well, she technically dismembered all three of his brothers, so I can quite see the point there. But anyway, Liliana then tells Gideon what she's just learned, sure that he would abandon her just like the rest of the Gatewatch. But once again, even more unexpectedly, the Necromancer agrees to help her to lay her brother to rest. Gideon then gathers the defenders of Benalia, and as the Benalish forces are clashing with the Cabal, Liliana calls out to her brother Josu to confront him. The Lich is enraged and immediately gets out of his hideout only to be instantly destroyed by Liliana. As he is dying, however, he curses the woman and tells her how it was all her fault if any of it had happened. How it was her black magic that had brought their family name so low, and how, once death would reach her, endless void would be waiting for her. Profoundly disturbed and upset by these words, awakened Liliana realizes that she and Gideon actually need help to finish the job they've started. To this end, the two team up with the famous Weatherlight crew to fight off the Cabal and finally kills Belzenlok. One day, they hear about the existence of a mythological weapon known as the Black Blade, which was a mystical soul-drinking weapon capable of harnessing and then unleashing a tremendous power against its opponents. After some struggles, they manage to track down and retrieve the weapon, and with it, they confront Belzenlok. The fight is gruesome, but in the end, Liliana manages to stab the demon to the throat using the blade and finally kills the fourth and last one of her demons. As the black blood spills from his neck, Liliana finally feels free once again after so many years of enslavement. Now, there was only one loose end to deal with. So, after having cleaned up Dominaria, all the reunited Gatewatch are ready to travel to Ravnica to engage in their last fight with Nigel Bolas. Something is wrong for Liliana, though. As much as she desperately wants to follow her friends, she is unable to. All of a sudden, Bolas materializes out of darkness and points out to her that her pact with the demons was still perfectly in place. Only one minor thing had changed. Since now all the four demons were dead, the contract had defaulted back to its broker, Nigel Bolas himself. To celebrate this passage, the Elder Dragon added another clause. If Liliana was to disobey Bolas in any way, he would have killed her on the spot. She would have aged hundreds of years in a few moments and become a desiccated husk to be blown away in the wind. Desperate and sick at heart, bound like a prisoner to a new incarnation of the fate that she had schemed so long to cheat, Liliana Vess is forced to follow Nicol Bolas off the plane. Back on Ravnica, Bolas installs Liliana as his Dreadhorde general. Then, the War of the Spark, the final battle of the war between Bolas and the Gatewatch and the 10 guilds reunited of Ravnica, begins. The name derives from the fact that Nicol Bolas is perilously close to completing the Elder spell, a potent manifestation of Elder magic to kill and harvest Planeswalker's spark to achieve ultimate power and godhood. The stakes are higher than ever. Spark harvesting is lethal, and the assembled Planeswalkers soon find themselves trapped on Ravnica due to Bolas' use of the Immortal Sun. As the Planeswalkers and native Ravnicans fight alongside the Gatewatch led by Jace Beleren and Gideon Jura against Bolas and his relentless army of Eternals, nothing less than the fate of the multiverse is at stake. Little do the Gatewatch suspect that Bolas has not only accounted for their interference, but is practically relying on it. As the battle unfolds, while she cannot back out from Bolas' direct commands, Liliana still tries to cause as minimum damage as she can without directly defying the dragon. Because she can directly control Eternals and gain their viewpoint during fights if she wants to, Liliana deliberately prevents them from entering buildings and slaughtering women and children. Also, when confronted on the battlefield by the Gatewatch themselves, she directly controls Oketra in shooting down Gideon to miss the shot on purpose and spare her friend's life. On the other side, although the news of Liliana's change of faction is very difficult to accept, Jace and the other Planeswalkers do not act softly about it, and they attempt directly her life to stop her command of the Horde. Bolas, however, understanding how crucial Liliana is for him, repeatedly prevents them from achieving their goal. During the battle, Raktas himself takes Gideon within striking distance of Bolas. The demon himself actually tries to attack Bolas, but he is effortlessly knocked out by the Elder Dragon, who's now almost completely invulnerable due to the hundreds of spark that he has already consumed. Jumping off the demon's head, Gideon tries to strike Bolas in the face with the Black Blade only for it to shatter. Bolas then reveals that he has enchanted the blades thousands of years ago, preventing it from being able to harm an Elder Dragon ever again. As the battle draws to a close, Bolas orders Liliana to use her 2 remaining God Eternals, Oketra and Bantu, to crush once and for all the combating forces of the Gatewatch and Ravnican forces together. However, not able to order the killing of her friends directly and furious for the regret that she feels, Liliana turns all the remaining Eternals against Bolas, breaking the contract and starting to dissolve into thin air while still pushing the undead forces towards a dragon. Gideon, who is fighting nearby, witnesses the scene and, understanding what's at stake, decides to sacrifice his own life to grant his invulnerability to Liliana and his souls instead of her. In this huge mess, another actor comes to the stage, and it is the Elder Dragon Niv Mizzet who surprises Bolas by impaling him through the back with the Azaret's spear. As this happens, Oketra, Bontu, and all the other Eternals are getting closer. Bolas manages to knock out Niv and obliterates Oketra, but not before Bontu bites him, harvesting all the sparks is consumed as well as Bolas' own spark. Unable to contain the immense amount of pure energy, then Bontu explodes into countless shards. In the aftermath of the battle, Niv Mizzet and the other guild leaders declared that Raul of the Izzet League, Kaya of the Oars of Syndicate, and Rashka of the Golgari Swarm must atone for helping Bolas. The three guild leaders had initially sided with Bolas, and only subsequently had they reunited with the other 7 guilds to face the Elder Dragon together with the Gatewatch. As penance for their sins, the 3 of them are assigned with bringing the other Planeswalker traitors to justice. Raul volunteers to find Tezzeret, Rashka is assigned to track down Dovin, and Kaya is sent to assassinate Liliana. Liliana, they contend, had defected too late and was still to be considered directly responsible for most of the casualties. Moreover, most members of the council thought of her as an outright villain and a threat. In her hunt, Kaya would be accompanied by Teo Verada and their friend Arathia Shakta. Liliana, in the meantime, is completely distraught and heartbroken due to Gideon's death. Jace tries to comfort her to the best of his abilities, but also warns her to leave Ravnica as soon as possible because there, her life would be in danger. Liliana decides to listen to his friend, grabs Bolas' spirit gem, the egg-shaped stone through which Bolas would channel his spark absorption during the war, and planeswalks away. Instinctively, Liliana travels to the dearest place of her memories, the land of Caligo on Dominaria, where she had grown up. She is absolutely broken and feels desperate with remorse and sadness thinking about all the awful things that she has done, especially to Gideon, who had given his life to save hers. Once again, the Raven Man manifests himself to Liliana and offers his assistance. The Onaka whispers from the Veil urge Liliana to accept the proposal, but she once again refuses. Then, she travels to her whole family estate, and as she gets there, Liliana remains shocked when she finds it restored to its original splendor. A nearby servant, enslaved through a gold collar around his neck, warns her not to proceed any further if she didn't want to be captured and subdued by the mistress of the house, a certain Liliana Vess. Wait, what? Wanting to know more about the impostor, Liliana enters the mansion to confront them, but still weak and unable to fight properly, she is indeed captured and enslaved. Okay, I guess. I mean, could have just... whatever. So a gold collar is placed around her neck and the spirit gem is actually taken from her. This is like a huge loss. Like, you betrayed everyone and you did awful things, and then like you're heartbroken because your best friend has just given his life for you, and this... okay. Whatever. So sometime after this, the true Liliana is found by Kaya and her party in a nearby garden tending to some plants while in some sort of trance. Then, as Teo attempts to remove the collar from Liliana's neck, she comes back to her senses and attacks the 3 assassins. She easily defeats both Kaya and Teo, and she's about to kill them when she's knocked unconscious by Rat. Thankfully, because they just saved you. But when she awakes, Liliana agrees to let the 3 assassins kill her, but at one condition. They must swear that it would also kill the impostor and free Liliana's people from their enslavement. The Planeswalkers agree to their request, and Kaya kills the fake Liliana, who turned out to have worked alongside a powerful djinn to take control over the estate and conjure illusions to enslave the people. When Kaya, Teo, and Rat return to the true Liliana, she opens up with them about the demonic contract and the reasons she had to do what she did. She also claims she had done her best to minimize, sure, maybe sometimes unsuccessfully, but still to minimize Bolas's carnage on Ravnica during the war. Out of mercy, the three Planeswalkers understand the difficult position Liliana had found herself into and decide to let her live. Still, Teo argues they would need some sort of proof of kill to bring back to the Council. As Liliana is holding the spirit gem that Rat has returned to her in one hand and the veil in the other, the former emits a warm, reassuring glow for a brief moment, and Liliana instinctively knows what she has to do. Finally, she decides to drop the veil once and for all, giving it up alongside its powers. Then, Teo uses his shield magic to transport the veil back to Ravnica, and the three deliver it to the Council as proof of Liliana's killing. The Elder Dragon Niv Mizzet, to prevent the powerful artifact to fall into the wrong hands again, puts it into a puzzle box for safekeeping and locks it away in its dungeons. Liliana, finally free from a weight she has borne for so many years, decides to start a new life, and to do so, she creates a new name for herself, Anna Yora. Anna, of course, was the name of her first mentor, while Yora came from someone else. Although Liliana did not know it at the time, and still claims that the name just popped into her head, Yora was the birth name of Gideon Jura, who was born Kition Yora. Liliana then travels back to Arcavios, the birthplace of Strixhaven University, and manages to take up a teaching position at the Witherbloom campus, where she had studied so many years before, and there she becomes known as Professor Serafina Onyx. Although finally living in peaceful times, teaching wouldn't be Liliana's primary focus. In fact, she would spend every moment she wasn't in class in the Biblioplex, an enormous domed building that rises above the rest of the campuses in Strixhaven and that hosts libraries said to hold the knowledge of the entire multiverse. During her endless hours there, she is moved by one obsession and one only: finding a way to bring her dearest friend Gideon back. Years pass, but her research continues to prove unsuccessful. One day, desperate and disheartened, she remembers the words that Bellatrix Witherbloom had once told her: "To honor the dead is how we treat the living." Bellatrix was one of the 5 Elder Dragons born from the Snores on Arcavios during the primary formation of the plane. Together with her 4 siblings, she had founded Strixhaven University, and the Witherbloom College had been named in her honor. Liliana finds a new purpose in these words and decides to heed their teachings by taking the lead in the confrontation with the Auric, which was a secret society of power-obsessed mages on Arcavios. These people used magics forbidden by the colleges of Strixhaven, and they wanted to conquer the school to steal the knowledge contained in the Biblioplex. Let's do a little step back here. The Auric were mostly mages who couldn't pass the entrance exam of Strixhaven or dropouts. They argued that Strixhaven was controlling access to magic on Arcavios and that the world would have been better off without it. For these reasons, they believed that if they destroyed the university, anyone anywhere in the world could practice magic, and they would basically come out as heroes. Also, they could have used the Biblioplex teaching to bring good and peace to the world. Quite convenient, right? Anyway, in picking her new fight, Liliana decides to bring along some of her students and fellow Planeswalkers too. Notably, the siblings Will and Rowan Kenrith will join her. The deans of the school, however, are not exactly happy about this, as they think, mistakenly, that the Auric are nothing to be truly afraid of. Liliana is about to launch her offensive, but the Auric are quicker. They catch Liliana by surprise and attack the school with their army of mage hunters. Of course, they're met by fierce resistance as Liliana works with the other professors and deans to defend the students of the school. During the attack, also the Thunder Dragons arrive, and they take part in the battle too. Liliana, in the meantime, saves the Kenrith twins from an Auric attack and leads them through an old underground passage to an area underneath the Biblioplex. There, the 3 find Exus Nar, leader of the Auric, who had just bound himself to an immense power source called as Nar. Let's do a little backtracking here. Thousands of years ago, 2 completely separate planes of existence merged bizarrely and uniquely. When the two words merged, their essence overlapped, but not perfectly. The ley lines of each world, the conduits of their mana, overlaid with their opposing elements of mana rather than with their match. This resulted in a unique twist on the magic of this plane. Each of these magical incongruities formed a small region called a snarl, where the effects were most apparent. The 5 Elder Dragon of Arcavios were born from these snarls, and thousands of years later they founded Strixhaven University at the epicenter of the snarls. Going back to our snarl-bound Auric, Liliana jumps at him, but before she can even lay a finger on the man, he uses the energy from the snarl to force teleport Liliana away, leaving Will and Rowan to face him and the terrible blood avatar he had summoned. The twins, however, are a lot weaker than Liliana, and they're easily kept at bay. When the Avatar is about to finish them off, and every hope seems to be lost, Extus is accidentally killed by the very same creature he has summoned. His death severs the summoning link and leads to the unsummon of the Avatar as well. In the meantime, it takes Liliana entire days to return to Strixhaven from the forest at the edge of the continent where she had been sent. When she finally makes it, the Deans of Strixhaven apologize to her, admitting that they should have heeded their warnings about the Auric and invite her to stay as a professor at Strixhaven indefinitely. She agrees to that, but at one condition. From that moment onwards, she would be allowed to teach a new introductory class on the necromantic arts to her students. With this agreement sealed, the ages-old Planeswalker decides to give up on her quest to resurrect Gideon, resolving that from now on, she will try to do his memory justice by doing nothing more than acting as a responsible person. Finally, she also decides to drop her adopted name, and now everyone at Witherbloom simply know her as Professor Liliana Vess. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching to this first episode of my Planeswalkers 101 series. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment in the comment section down below. My name is Octopus, and I will see you in the next one.